What is going on, Andrew Bond? How you doing out there, my man?
I'm good, Martin. Good to catch up with you as well. It's been a while, so
It's been a
a lot of
while.
craziness going on in the world at the moment.
I know, man. And also, this is episode number 100, mates. And,
Congratulations.
mate, you've been supporting me through this. And remember, we started banging out these podcasts like years ago. And here we
Mm.
are, mate. So nice one for jumping on. It's good to have you on episode 100, mate, the milestone. It's great to have you on, bro.
What's kind of the average of, I know you mentioned before, people quitting, right? There's an average time or average amount of podcasts there where people quit
That's right.
rather than continuing. What is it, like 12 or less than
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah, it's like 13, I think. So they don't go
Mm.
longer. Yeah, so it's probably
Okay.
less than that, the average. Because people tend not to go longer than, well, they don't go past, I think it's like 90% of people or 95% of people don't go past episode 13.
Mm.
So yeah, man, it's a different, it's, way of communicating. And I think it's good and bad, right? Because anyone can do it. But at the
Yeah.
same time, that means like everyone is doing it, right? So,
Mm.
but
Can be a
keeping,
problem, right, with the information that we kind of gather on a daily basis, which is something we're seeing, which is more significant at the moment with the coronavirus, right? We're seeing a lot of misinformation out there and conflicting information on what we should do and what we shouldn't do as well. It's kind of similar within the fitness industry. So you need to choose probably two or three people that are delivering the right message or the same message, and just look to follow them and take it from there. Really.
definitely, because as you say, otherwise it can be misleading information, contradictory, and then
Mm.
people are getting confused, right? And I think that kind of sums up the fitness and nutrition industry in a sense. Don't get me wrong; it's not all bad. There's some amazing information out there. More information. It's the information error, right? But that can be a problem as well, right, Drew?
Especially as a trainer, right? When you're trying to deliver one message and then someone with a huge following online is trying to deliver the completely opposite message, trying to sell you, guess, a product to get you in shape or something that is misleading or is going to make them a lot of money but not really benefit you. So it's difficult for the viewers as well and the followers. So
Yeah,
again,
definitely.
during this time, we're finding out a little bit more, and we're all a little bit confused. It's one of those funny times in my life. Anyway, probably kind of one of the strangest times in my life where I'm currently not working. I'm having to find other things to do to motivate myself. So I guess this is what the podcast is all about, right? I'm no expert on the coronavirus, so I'm not going to delve too deeply into that. But what I can tell you is how to stay in shape, how to stay healthy, what to focus on during this time.
Definitely, and that's what we're going to talk about today: how to stay lean and healthy, through this period of self-isolation or whatever situation you're dealing with in your particular country. But I'd like you to give us more detail on your situation then, Anne, because just for the new listeners and stuff, you live in the Big Apple, NYC,
Mhm.
and from what I've seen, it's pretty bad there in terms of you can imagine, right? It's one of the most dense cities in the world, and it's a big crisis there, right, with the corona.
Yeah, well, it is the money-making capital of the world in one sense, right? You have Wall Street here and things like that, stock markets, and that is all being affected by it. We're not really, again, I don't think it's been made clear to us on exactly what we should do. Like, we are currently being told that you can go outdoors and exercise, you can go out and walk your dog. I think people are taking too much advantage of that. And in my area yesterday, there were so many people out and about. Actually, probably one of the busiest I've ever seen it. So because people are home doing a home from work, working from home, the sun was shining outside. Obviously, we're supposed to keep our distance and things like that, but it was very difficult to keep your distance from one person to the next when you're walking your dog. I had to end up leaving one area because it was so busy. But unfortunately, at this time, there's a lot of people losing jobs and things like that. And obviously, the medical staff are overwhelmed. So you've got to take that into account. Like, as much as we as individuals working in gyms or personal trainers, we may obviously have to reduce the amount of work we do at the moment. However, we need to think there's a bigger picture here, and people are going through far worse, right?
Definitely. And exactly the same here. So most people are, working from home with whatever that is. I forget what that's
Mm.
called. Anyway,
Yeah.
forget about it. No, people working from home, and obviously I live in Sydney. I live right by the Coogee Beach here in Sydney in the eastern suburbs, and exactly the same thing. I haven't seen the beach so busy since like
Mm.
New Year's. It's like New Year's Eve, right? Around here, it's peak summer,
Yeah.
Christmas time. It was rammed. The other day, Thursday, I was walking down the beach, and I was like, people are not taking this seriously, and it's a strange one though, right? And because you're obviously your grandmother's from Italy, and you know it reminds me of what went on over there. You know, the Italians, you know, human beings are renowned for this, right? We don't tend to really take action and really take things seriously until bad shit starts happening, right? It's happened time and time again in history. And with the Italians, they were, you know, they, like you said, in New York yesterday, and like it's been over here. Lots of people are outside. You know, Bondi Beach, they closed Bondi Beach down yesterday because people weren't taking it seriously. The beach was more busy than ever. The sun's shining here. And as you said then, it's almost like people are getting outside because none of us, it's the unknown. None of us know what's going to happen if we're going to be locked up and everything's going to shut down. But the Italians, you know, they were out and about. They were told the situation, but they were out and about doing their thing, not really taking it seriously. And, you know, as we know, from to my knowledge, it went from like one case to about 250 within 24 hours. And, I mean, the situation out there now is just horrific. I mean, it's surpassed China now, the highest. I think I heard recently they've had a higher death toll now in Italy, because they're into the thousands, than the Twin Towers, 9/11.
Yeah, I think the overwhelming factor there is that they haven't really got a handle on it in hospitals and things like that. So, like, this is the biggest thing I can see from this this whole movement at the moment, is that if we don't kind of stay in control of it and we don't stay at home, then that's going to be the issue that, you know, the NHS in the UK and the medical service here in America may be overwhelmed by the amount of casualties. So I think because they were overwhelmed, then more people are dying. But from what I've read, don't quote me on this, I'm no expert, but the majority of people who died were over 80 years of age and had pre-existing conditions anyway. I would assume as well, and this is my assumption again, that a lot of people in Italy and Spain and things like that, they smoke a lot. Smoking is more acceptable. This does apparently attack the lungs, so that could be another factor that's taken into consideration in terms of the death toll there, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I was saying this yesterday. There would be other factors, like we always say, in regards to health in general, right? Lifestyle factors play a huge part in it. But, you know, it's luck of the draw as well. I mean, unfortunately now, you know, we hope that other countries would learn from what's happened with, you know, the death toll in those countries. But, I mean, like we said, yesterday, we went out for food yesterday, and you know, it's like a special occasion with my girlfriend. We went out, and it was busy out, and it's a strange situation, right? And because it's almost like hard to fathom. I don't think we've got. I think this is the start of it, right? This is the start of it. It's only, they reckon it's going to peak, you know, in a month or two, which kind of makes sense in terms of the virus spreading. But, you know, for example, I just opened the food menu, and like naturally licked my fingers to turn the page, and I was like, shit, what am I doing? That literally, that could kill someone. That could kill an old, like you said, you know, older people, and people like my mother who have a really serious autoimmune illness, which, you know, that's another conversation. People who have their immune systems compromised, older people, you know, someone could touch that. Who knows? Who's to say I'm not carrying it? This has happened time and time again. Like someone like Idris Elba, the actor. I'm not sure if you heard about him. He was carrying it. Felt fine, no symptoms, nothing, and he was out and about doing his thing. Who knows how many people he passed it to? And it's a situation which it's you know, you've got to take it seriously, but then at the same time you can take that way too far, and you can, you know, a lot of people are. It's an added stress, you know, the day and age we live in nowadays, as we've said before. A lot of people are dealing with mental health issues, and we're more stressed than ever, really, for multiple reasons, and then it's an added stress on top of that, right?
Such a kind of a paranoid situation we're in, where, you know, we're all looking at each other as if we could be carriers, right? I'm not sure the exact extent of people who have it is. I think that a lot of us may think we have it, but I think this is in a high percentage. People who are kind of paranoid that they have it do not have it. So, you know, your concern is, are you affecting older people? With my older clients who may have pre-existing conditions, I've just cut them off. Not in the sense cut them off in the sense that I've totally ignored them. I've just cut them off in terms of, will I go to see them or will I do sessions for them? I did that last week. I'm just staying in contact with them just to see if they're okay. And I think, like, as personal trainers, we're on the front line of health here. You know, we need to be, at this time, we need to be kind of positive for family members and clients, and make sure that we are on top of checking up on them, ensuring that they have food and things like that, ensuring that they're being spoken to by family members, and ensuring that they have workouts to do at home just to keep themselves busy.
Exactly. And talking about health and positivity, just to change gears a little bit, I think that is hopefully just the last thing I'm going to say on the actual virus now is hopefully we'll look back and we've all overreacted, but obviously it's always better to be safe than sorry, right? And when we're talking about health, that's what we're going to be dropping on you today is some tips to keep you lean and healthy throughout this period. Obviously that's our wheelhouse is health and fitness. And as fitness coaches, we certainly have a duty now, as Andrew said, to pick people up. I think that's the bottom line, really, because a lot of people, as we said, they're feeling even more stressed than ever now with the situation. A lot of us have, we're not 21 anymore, right? And we're in our 30s, and my mother's 58, and she has an autoimmune illness, and we all have people who we love, and they could be more vulnerable, so it can be stressful. But just to pick up the spirits, I think. It's a case of like one thing that I've been doing myself, Drew. I think talking about the mental health side of it is it's just that I told you about the gratitude thing. That's the one thing I don't do meditation, but in terms of gratitude and being grateful for certain things and putting things into perspective, that's something I do every day, and that always helps when I can go into that state of worry because I'm thinking about my mother or whatever. I wake up sometimes in the morning, I'm thinking, oh shit, is this actually happening? Because all it takes, how dense the UK is. There's like 70 million people living there. I think, all it takes is for my mum to have contact. And I'm overthinking it. I'm overthinking a lot of things. And then when I go back to my gratitude whilst I'm brushing my teeth in the morning, I just do the 2-3 minutes of gratitude, grateful for 3 things. It could be anything from just waking up in the morning to having your health, to having your family, your partner, and that switches my mind, switches my perspective on things, and that's really helped. So I guess, tip number 1, I think that is the number 1 thing for me. I'm not a mental health expert, but just doing that simple few minutes of gratitude every day really helps me. Is there anything that you do which helps change your state of mind or?
Pretty similar to you, Mark. I think, during this time as well, another factor we need to take into consideration is people's mental health, right? Definitely. That means check in on each other, family members, anyone you know might be vulnerable or not vulnerable. Just talk, see how they're feeling during this situation. We know that coming out of it, people are losing jobs. It's going to be a struggle for the next couple of months following what's happening with the coronavirus. So any of these little tips that we give you today, you can apply are going to help massively. For me, like for mental health, I just try to, like you say, practice gratitude morning and then in the evening. And I also try and write down what I thought went well during the day and what I thought that I can improve on. So self-improvement, I take that into consideration as well. A massive one for me for mental health is focusing on sleep. I would probably put that above anything when it comes to overall health. I'm not sure if you agree with that, right?
100%, yeah.
This is a time now where you probably are going to be isolating yourself at home. So this is a time where you can start working on self-improvement that will help with mental health. So if you have poor sleep, I have no doubt that your day, the next day, is going to be messed up. And you're going to be having negative thoughts. You're going to be anxious. You're making wrong choices with food. You're not going to be able to exercise as efficiently as you would do. And that all comes under mental health, right? So for me, it would be practicing gratitude, focusing on sleep, making sure that I'm moving throughout the day, I'm exercising and eating well, eating natural foods which are not going to mess up my stomach, foods that sit well with me. And we know that the stomach is now linked to having mental health issues, so that becomes more of a priority.
Absolutely, yeah. With 80% of the serotonin receptors being located in the gut, we all know how important gut health is. And eating a diet which is, a balanced whole food diet, essentially. So, fiber is really important for the gut, which is why we always talk about the importance of vegetables, which we'll come to soon. But I'm glad you mentioned sleep. And before we go into sleep, I'd like, because we're still on the first tip here, we can just tie this up into mental health. Journaling is a big one. It's been a bit of a game changer for me. I haven't been as consistent over the last 2 weeks, and I've noticed it actually. But just doing a brain dump, I put off journaling for a long time just because I didn't know where to start and I was overcomplicating it. I was like, what do I write on this page? But it's pretty simple. You just dump your thoughts onto a piece of paper for a few minutes. I do it in the morning and sometimes I do it in the evening as well. But I find for me it's generally more effective in the morning because we tend to wake up generally in more of a stress state with our cortisol levels higher. Our stress hormones are a little bit higher in the mornings. So I just dump my fear, my thoughts, my fears, my thoughts, and my feelings onto a page, and it's really helped, and it really builds that awareness. Even within a space of a few weeks, like 2 weeks, I really noticed I started connecting certain things, like, oh, this, I feel like this because of this reason, and this is what I need to improve on. And just like Andrew said, learning about what you need to improve on and what you need to change is very important. So that's a big one for me as well. But yeah, sleep, we've talked about this many a times, but
yeah,
I think in this situation as well, linking this to sleep, I think we're in a situation where we're going to want to be more entertained, really, because if we're having to self-isolate for a few weeks, we're probably going to be consuming more, Netflix and social media or whatever it is to entertain us. And I think that just maybe reading a book before you go to sleep, just a simple tip like that, is something that really helps on my sleep. Just 20 minutes before I go to bed. I'm talking about a paper book now, not reading off my phone, obviously. And it really helps me wind down. And in fact, I did it last night, and I just started falling asleep within 5 minutes. And that's a really good tip, just to help you improve your sleep quality. And that is the foundation. I'm glad you said that, Anne, because I think that is literally the most important thing, really, than anything when it comes to your mental health and wellness, really, sleep.
This is certainly a time for self-reflection and self-improvement, right? So you mentioned journaling and things like that. During this time, if you're at home and you have nothing to do, the easiest thing would be to just go into Netflix and just watch TV all day and things like that. But you could take into account, okay, how can I improve my nighttime routine? Can I start dimming the lights earlier? Can I start reading a little bit more? Can I start having conversations with loved ones a little more? This is a time for you to focus on not just your strengths, but your weaknesses as well. And start to implement changes now that will work for the foreseeable future, right?
Absolutely. It's a great opportunity to do that. And that's such a good point. It's a great opportunity to start building new habits and developing new habits. As Andrew said then, we always talk about this, but it is literally the most important thing is the sleep quality. And if you can just start doing that, a really, really good thing we do is we've got those. Have you tried those pink Himalayan rock lamps before, Andrew?
No, I've heard of them, though. I think I've heard on another podcast. They're pretty handy, right? I tried it. I just usually have candlelight and just turn the lights off, really, but I've heard they're pretty authentic, right? They're pretty good.
Oh, they're great, yeah. And, you can still see enough to do, even if you want to read or whatever, you can still see enough to still do whatever you're going to do. We're not saying turn the lights down and just don't do anything, We're not saying that. We're saying those, for example, those pink Himalayan rock lamps, they're very inexpensive as well. We basically turn 2 of them on because red light has been proven to actually be beneficial for your sleep and for reducing stress levels. But also putting the candles on as well and dimming the lights down. And if you can do that, a minimum of 1 hour before bed, ideally. But if you can, 2 hours before bed, and just winding down before bed and setting yourself up with a good night routine. And as Andrew said, then that's something that can carry over into your life, and hopefully you can continue to be consistent with when all of this drama's out the way, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's also going to reduce your stress levels as well.
Definitely.
Another underlying factor that's going to make you feel a little bit better.
Definitely. And I'm glad you mentioned about being present with your family, because I've noticed a lot of that myself. I'm seeing a lot of love and unity throughout this period. And I know it seems like we're just at the start of it. But what I'm seeing is people who are self-isolating, families. And I saw yesterday the whole of California having to self-isolate, and it's really taking its toll across the UK and the US now, and it's not going to be long before it happens here. But what I have noticed is families, posting or whatever it is, and just having fun together. And I think it's a time to really be present with your family and just enjoy that time, because when do we talk about this at Christmas time and stuff, right? And when do we actually get that quality time with our loved ones?
It's very limited, and I'm noticing more at the moment as well. That obviously I'm home all day, and that's having a different effect on my own relationship. But also, I did a post earlier as well about my dog as well. I know that sounds a little ridiculous, but he is a lot happier at the moment when I'm there. He seems less anxious, and he is also he doesn't play up as much. Let's just say that. So there's usually a time at night, maybe around 8 o'clock, where he starts getting a little crazy. He may play up a little bit, but because I'm there pretty much, throughout the day. He's just chilled now. So it's crazy the effect it's having on different things. So
exactly. That goes to show, right? But yeah, I think just to kind of, I'm just trying to think if there's anything else now. And we as we always say, we're not psychotherapists or mental health experts. We're just talking based on experience and what the science points to, really. So just to wrap up the mental health thing, I think the key thing is obviously sleep is the foundation. So if you can prepare yourself for a good sleep, that is going to be the main contributor, really, to like one of the main contributors to managing your stress and finding different ways to really manage that stress. If you're not going to be in the work environment or driving your car as much, all of these things are added stresses. So as we said, if you can take it as an opportunity to really start honing in on, right, how can I work on my personal development? Can I start journaling? And look, even if you were to take one of these tips away, like I said, whilst you're brushing your teeth in the morning, how simple is this? I got this off Jamie Alderton, actually, Anne, because I wasn't being as consistent with it, writing it down. So I thought, right, whilst I'm brushing my teeth, it's an easy win. 2 minutes, go over 3 things I'm grateful for. Just that little tip there. If you do that every single morning, it changes the way you think. It did for me, and it has for many. And also, like Andrew said then, preparing yourself for a good sleep. And you also said, well, obviously, I've been doing journaling as well. You said at the end of the day, what was the other tip you said at the start? Just writing down what you can improve on?
Yeah, just see how your day is. Have a reflect on your day. See what's gone right during the day, but also there may be times where things have gone wrong. Don't take that as a negative. Take that as a thing to learn from, and write down how you could improve on that the next time.
I think it is important we spend a bit of time on this topic, though, because the stats are crazy. When I looked at the first 2 months of this year, I looked at these stats with coronavirus, and there was 2,000 odd deaths. There was 160,000 deaths from the flu, and then there was 70,000 deaths from the flu, and there was 170,000 suicides. And I looked at those numbers, and although we know we kind of know this at the back of our minds, suicide rate's higher than it's ever been. But when you see those numbers, it makes you think, Jesus. And I guess a lot, some people listening to this might be thinking, I haven't got my family, or they might feel quite lonely through these times. Some people might be self-isolating on their own. What do we don't know the personal situation, but as we said, if you can take 1 or 2 tips away from this, because it's something that I think everyone needs to really hone in on, including Andrew and I. I think it's, we both know, right, and when we can manage our stress, our performance in the gym improves, our relationships tend to improve. My gut health improves. I even notice when I'm stressed, as we said earlier, the link between the gut and the brain. All these things I've started connecting to now. So,
and considering that, you're talking about suicide there. I know this is supposed to be an uplifting podcast, but surely I think it's pretty much proven now there's a correlation between the use of social media and the increase in suicide. So during this time, it might be a time to reduce the amount of time you're spending on social media, because you're going to see not a lot of negativity linked to the current situation on Facebook and Instagram, things like that. So if you can only give yourself a certain time during the day to check it, during those other times be productive elsewhere with reading or reaching out to friends or cooking or cleaning or whatever that might be. And it may be a kind of a time to either switch off social media completely or just tune out or zone out.
Great. You're reading my mind, mate. It's good to have you back on, because you're one step ahead of me, brother. You keep me on my toes. That was the part I forgot. Yeah, the social media aspect, and something I've talked about before. But now's the time for you to go into your settings, right? Because we talked about just being more present with your family or wherever it is. If you have people around at this period, if you're fortunate enough to, then go into your settings, go into downtime, and you can set your phone to lock you out of certain apps at whatever time. So, for example, last night, every Saturday for me, 7 p.m., it locks me out of pretty much all of my apps, apart from my messages. So out of Instagram, I can't check, I can't scroll, I can't go on there to do what I got to do, and then I'm forced to be more present. And then you can set the time for it to allow you back in then, so it allows me back in the following morning at 9 a.m. or whatever it is. So there's an opportunity to do that and be more disciplined and treat it as a practice, really, because as we said before, social media and food and all these things require discipline, and sleep. It's not just going to the gym that requires discipline and requires consistency. All these other things are also a practice. So how about you practice, like Andrew said, allocating a certain time to go on social media. It's it's much easier said than done. And I'm not saying we find this easy, do we, And?
No, definitely not.
Not at all.
There's been times, though, in the past where I've taken a little bit of time off social media, like 2 weeks to a month, just because it didn't feel right mentally. So that helped me a lot. So if you are if it is triggering you and you're feeling a little bit down, looking at it, it may be time to just switch it off altogether for a little while, and you will start to feel better.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
It's a good practice to put in place. You don't always need to be on there. You don't really miss much when you're off there. Believe it or not, but if you are using it for business and things like that, then obviously you need to be on there quite often. But again, like I say, limit the time on there. Set your settings to. I usually take 2 hours off it in the morning and at least 2 off in the evening, just so I can kind of reflect in the morning. Nothing triggers me. I can be more productive in my day in my morning, and the same at nighttime. I don't want to be seeing it at night, because if something triggers me or something upsets me or I feel a little bit down, then that's going to affect again my sleep. And then that leads on into the next day as well. So
definitely. And that's one thing I'm really strict with, is not checking my Instagram within the first, generally within the first hour of waking. Sometimes I'll have a post ready and I'll dip in and put the post in, and I'm straight out of there. I don't check anything. And that, because waking up, most people do that. And I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because most people get up, check their emails straight away in beds, go on Instagram and start scrolling. That's the normal thing to do now. But that will put you straight into a reactive state, and it will change people. Some people might think, what's he talking about? It'll change the way you think for the rest of the day, because I stopped doing this about a year or two ago, and I noticed a massive difference in terms of how I was feeling, my stress levels. Because think about it. You're going on, you're scrolling through your emails, you see one email which is going to stress you out from work, and then you're going to be straight into that fight or flight state. Even if it is a mild boost of the stress hormones, it's still going to change the way your brain works. And also, maybe that was a bit rich, but it's going to change the way you feel. And the same thing is with social media. You go on there, you see something that triggers you, and even checking messages. I checked the message. I remember a few weeks ago, I checked a message off someone, off an old client, about this thing we were talking about, and she said something that triggered me. Obviously, that's my own issue, but I was just really, really annoyed. And I felt really anxious for like the first 2 hours then when I was training clients. And I thought, that's it now. I'm not even going to check messages when I can help it. So, I mean, that's the extreme version, Anne, but I think that's a good point. And just to wrap this point up, we're rambling a bit, but I think it's important for us to delve deep into this. Working on your personal development. That could be tip one. And I think, the studies show the stuff we mentioned. Even if you can get a pen and paper and write this down now, gratitude, commit to 3 minutes a day through this period. Journaling, even like I said, even if you pick one of these, you don't have to pick all of them, but write them down. Journaling has been proven as well, brain dumping, to be really beneficial for your brain. Studies have shown this. So just writing down 2 or 3 minutes of your fears, thoughts, and your feelings. And then what was it? Social media?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What tips would you give for social media?
Just what we just said there. So limit the time on there.
Yep.
Take time off if you need to. Mm-hmm. Only follow certain people as well. We've discussed that before.
Sweet.
Follow 1 or 2 people as opposed to 20 people, because the message can be conflicting, especially during this time.
And sleep, just wrap that one up for us.
Sleep, pivotal for everything, really. I put that on top of the table for health. It's going to have a knock-on effect to how you feel and how you perform and how work goes the next day, etc. So just focus on it right now. Make sure you have a good nighttime routine in place. Make sure you're getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep at least, and don't let emails and social media take over your evening or morning.
Great stuff. Point number 2. Let's try and lift their spirits, Drew. Yeah, let's talk movement, exercise, right? Body weight exercise, Andrew, is something that Andrew and I, a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when we were proper gym bros, we probably would have laughed at that if someone said to us, you could build muscle with body weight exercises, right?
Yep, most definitely, mate. It's yeah. I looking back at some of the training sessions I used to do were crazy. But now I would see that as an opportunity. I certainly see this time as an opportunity for you guys to do something different. Work on your movement, work on your strength, work on isometric holds and things like that.
What do you mean by isometric?
Just holding a position for a certain amount of time. So
like a plank or holding a squat? down
Yeah,
in
it
the
could
squat
be a
position.
plank, could be a wall sit, it could be a split squat, it could be anything like that. These are types of different challenges that you can add to your routine because you're not going to have the same amount of equipment that you have in a gym, right? So you're going to be able to challenge the body in different ways. We're always talking about the body adapting to exercise. So this is a new stimulus to bring in that your body should respond to pretty well. So if I were to do a routine now, maybe I'm going to work on how I move. There may be a weakness, maybe my overhead press. I'm not quite able to reach out without my rib cage extending upwards, okay, and my back going into extension. So how can I improve on that? Am I able to hold a position for a certain amount of time? Am I able to do a pull-up, a push-up? If I'm not, how can I work on those weaknesses? By the end of this isolation, am I able to do one of those movements? Am I able to do one push-up? Am I able to do one pull-up? It doesn't necessarily have to be linked to aesthetics and how you look. It can be linked to, okay, can I get one repetition of this? Or can I improve my strength in this area? So doing different workouts now is going to be really good for your body. And give yourself a little break from weights. I'm sure you're going to come back stronger, I would imagine.
Absolutely. I tell you what, and if you do it right, it blows my mind with clients. Some clients I have to communicate with them really well because, for example, one now, she's had a trainer before, the typical, she's been pushed really hard. The trainer used to, beast her and really, really push her in the gym. And that's what she wanted. So she came to me, she's like, right, I want to get in shape now. I've let myself go a bit. So I was like, right, let's do it then. So let's do some movement. And I was doing some basic bodyweight movements with her. And then I just developed like a circuit for her to do based on her weaknesses. And she was blown away by how hard it was. If you do, Andrew, even if you do like, say, 2 or 3 bodyweight exercises, which, say for example, you like a single leg, like a toe touch or whatever, where you're just balancing on one leg and you reach your toe. You can make that so challenging if you do it with perfect form and you're engaging all the right muscles. If you're doing like a circuit with no rest in between as well, and you're really focusing on tension in those muscles, like you obviously a band if you can bring a band in there as well. But I mean, it's so challenging, and you're burning a lot of calories. That comes as a side effect of doing it. And yes, you probably will build a bit of muscle for sure because it's it's novelty, it's a different stimulus, like Andrew said. But it's really, really challenging, and it's definitely an opportunity, I think, for people to really work, because you can never do enough mobility, within reason, right? You can never really do enough mobility, right, And?
And I would just challenge yourself by doing it. This is the tip now. If you are isolated at home and it comes to the point where you're limited to where you can go outside, right, which looks like it's kind of setting upon New York at the moment. So you want to do this frequently throughout the day as well. So just to take up some time, because there is going to be an element of boredom involved in sitting at home all day. We all know that. So if I were you, I would just challenge myself with 4 to 5 exercises. Can be using the band or can be using body weight. Work on your weaknesses and do these for 20 to 30 minutes at a time. 3 to 4 times throughout the day. It's going to eat up some of your time. Plus, you're going to get a good, as you said, you're going to burn a few calories from it. You're going to get good results from it as well.
Absolutely. And I always go as far to say just, because most people, even if you were to commit, just say, right, I'm going to do, because sometimes it's very hard. I like to point out the fact that it can be harder to motivate yourself when you're in your house, right? I understand that because most people go into the gym is what gives you that motivation and that drive to go and train. So even if you just commit to like 10, 20 minutes, you say, right, I'm going to do 10, 20 minutes and I'm going to do, this bodyweight circuit or whatever it is. And then do 10, 20 minutes again, like Andrew said. But frequency is king. So whether you're, you could just use a resistance band. If you're looking to, build muscle and get a pump on your muscles, and if you are, totally driven by aesthetics, and you're listening to this and you're like, I don't care about mobility, right? Then you can just get a band and do, say, 2 to 3 resistance band sessions. Pick like 4 to 5 exercises and just hit those weaker body parts. And I've got videos on my YouTube as well, which you can go and check out if you just go over to Martin Silver Fitness on YouTube. But when it comes to the mobility and the body weight stuff, like you said, and yeah, ideally if you want to do 20 minutes of that twice per day, you'll accelerate your results, right?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, man. And talking about frequency, this can be then linked to when you go back to training in a gym. If you do have a weak body part, say it's your glutes or your arms, train them daily.
Definitely.
Train them every day to bring them up. It doesn't have to be hard every day, obviously. It can be a tough session on the Monday, then Tuesday we have a band session or a little pump session on some machines. Wednesday we go hard again, then Thursday again another pump session. So just get into the routine of doing these sessions now, so you then apply them to your weekly routine anyway.
Definitely, yeah. Those band sessions change the game for us. We've talked about this before, but in case you're wondering what we're talking about the resistance bands you get with handles. And let's just say you wanted to bring up your legs and your shoulders, right? Which has always been a problem area for me in the past. But you don't really need a band for the leg stuff. You can just do some body weight squats, 10 to 20 reps. And then if you really want to go for it on the legs and bring them up faster, you can then do some split. This is what I used to do anyway. You can then do some split squats. So like a static lunge, 10 to 20 reps. And then for your shoulders, you could just stand on the band then, the band with handles, and just do some side laterals. So you're lifting the band out to the sides. And then some shoulder press. So 4 exercises. Do 3 to 5 rounds. So you're doing them in quick succession. And that would take 6 to 10 minutes maximum. If you were to do that once, twice, 3 times per day, even within the matter of a few days or a week, you'll notice a difference. It really brings up those weak body parts and it aids recovery. But when it comes to the body weight, just the home workout thing we're talking about, I have a workout I posted on my YouTube as well, a recent one. Like Andrew said, you only need a band and your own body weights, and you're doing the full body. You're working on those weaker muscles, there's some good core exercise on the one I just posted, because most people need to bring up, the internal core muscles. And, again, doing a few rounds of that is very challenging. And also, go on. I was going to talk about movement. Was there anything you wanted to say on that topic?
No, I think I was going to bring up another point, but if you're going to go into movement, you can chat.
No, go on. No, break another point. No, go on.
I think, from what I've been reading, the amount of junk food that people have been buying has increased, right, during this time. And that would be the easiest thing for people to do, is just start eating terribly at this point. But you need to take into account that your energy expenditure is going to be down, so your movement is going to be decreased massively during this time, right? So it may be a time for you to decrease the amount of calories you're eating. I know that becomes more difficult when you're at home, but if your eating reflects your results, right? So during this time, if you do want to stay in shape, then you are going to have a bigger control over calories. If you don't mind putting on a bit of body fat and a bit of weight, and you are looking to bulk, quote unquote bulk, then it may be a great time to increase calories at the moment. But this becomes into effect where we always talk about eating more and more natural and whole foods, because they're much harder to overconsume. If you're people will argue all day that, okay, you need to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight. Okay, you can add junk food to your diet. However, during this time, I promise you, if you have a cupboard full of junk food and you're sat at home, the likelihood of you eating all that in one go is pretty big. So it may be a time to think, right, can I now focus on different types of food? Can I bring more whole, natural foods into my diet? Can I eat more vegetables? And we talked about earlier, bringing different principles into play that can help you in the long term. This might be the time to start implementing changes to your diet. You have time to do it. Start eating a little bit better. And let's take health into account, right? This is a health scale. If you have pre-existing conditions, you may be able to change some of those conditions by eating a little bit better and moving a little bit better. So now is the time to start implementing those changes. And sorry, I have a little disturbance there. So
good.
And start focusing on nutrition and eating more natural foods.
Definitely, and that's a good segue into our next point, talking about nutrition, because just a simple habit, without going off track too much, a simple habit that Andrew implemented with one of his online clients recently was to eat more vegetables with his breakfast. And that is something I used with one of my online clients recently. I said, listen, one of his goals for 1 week was just to have vegetables most mornings with your breakfast. So he'd have his usual wherever he was having, but he was just making sure he's into the habit. Luckily, he's already into the habit of having eggs and meat and stuff like that sometimes for breakfast. So he was just adding a bunch of vegetables to his breakfast, and even within the space of a few weeks, he was like, do you know what? He said, I'm not craving the foods I used to crave. That was his number one kind of feedback I got from him. He said, I've just stopped thinking about the foods I used to crave even a few weeks ago. And that's how powerful it is when you implement simple habits like eating more vegetables for breakfast. It can change the way you eat for the rest of the day. And buying junk food, that's a very good point you mentioned there. But buying junk food or buying foods which are going to be more likely to make you overeat, like any processed foods whatsoever. Don't get me wrong, we've got to be realistic about this now. A lot of people listening to this, they're gonna be eating more of those foods, right? Because we're gonna be bored, we're gonna be inside. But the key thing is not buying stupid amounts for a start. If you're gonna buy some of that food, keep it within reason and don't buy stupid amounts of it. Because like Andrew said, you can bet your life that you will eat those foods. And it kind of takes me into the next point I wanted to mention is eating in front of the TV. And I've talked about this a few times. The other day, I think about 2 weeks ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to eat in front of the TV. I'm gonna do it. I haven't done it for a while. It's enjoyable. Do you know what? I didn't enjoy it anymore because I haven't done it for so long. It made me realize that I'm not paying attention at all to my food. So I'm watching the TV, and because I know this is kind of like somewhere it takes a while to get to this point when you're mindful about eating, right? So I don't want to go off too much on one here, but just even when I eat in general, I'll put a podcast in, but I won't go on my phone and I won't distract myself from my eating my food. And when I was sitting in front of the TV the other day, I was like, wow, I can see how this can be disastrous and why it has been a real big issue for me in the past, eating in front of the TV. We associate, we go to the cinema, for example, we associate TV, cinema with food, right? It's just something that we do. So if you can start implementing habits like, right, I'm going to make sure when I do eat my food, even if I do have some dessert or some crap, I'm going to eat it on the table with my family, for example, especially in times of if you are self-isolating or whatever, just try not to eat in front of the TV because I think I looked at a study recently, actually. It's been proven that you're much more likely to overeat calories. And yeah, I wanted to bring that point up. And what was the other one I said?
It's just mindless eating.
Yeah, mindless eating. Yeah.
And again, you're talking about building relationships, right? You sat down, you're having that conversation with family or friends or loved ones. Your phone's off, right? Less social media, as we discussed. Leave your phone there, have that conversation. It just builds up those relationships. But also, this is another opportunity for people to start cooking more, I guess, right? You're talking about having junk food in the house. The temptation now is to order out. There's still restaurants. Okay, this could go both ways. We need to support restaurants because they may go under. Okay, so we may need to buy the odd takeaway here and there. However, this is also an opportunity for you to cook your own food. So Definitely. If you are, and that's something we should be doing on a more regular basis anyway. We're talking about controlling the amount we eat. It's very difficult for us to know when we're eating out the exact amount that we are eating. That's why sometimes we tend to put on weight. So this is a time now. Can you cook more? Can you bring in fresh ingredients? Can you support local markets and things like that and buy natural foods from them? Keep their businesses running and just start implementing different practices, because if you're looking to lower calories and you are looking to, the worst thing that can come out of this is if you put in a lot of body fat. It's going to be harder to reverse when this finishes. Oh,
definitely. 100%. And that's a critical point you made there, because it's no joke, especially who people, let's face it, 6 out of 7 people struggle to manage their weight, right? So through this time when you're indoors and confined, and yes, you can go out on walks and stuff like that, but it's going to be much, much, much easier to overeat. And talking about eating a bit healthier, maybe increasing your protein intake as well. And we have some new recipe books now on our website. So if you go over they're free, by the way, completely free. Hundreds of recipes, 3 different books. We've got a high protein one, a low carb one, and a vegan one. But if you download go over to optimizeyourbody.com now and download the high protein recipe book. There's about 50 different recipes in there. Most of them are really simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Don't think, I can't cook. So a lot of people say that to me. It's really, really simple. You'd be surprised how simple these recipes are. Practice, right? Yeah, exactly. And I notice Andrew does. You do a bit of cooking nowadays as well, don't you? Some of your food, like simple stuff, like putting. I know it sounds to most people a bit boring, but putting veggies in the baking them in the oven, right? Certain vegetables and adding a little salt and olive oil.
I've certainly improved. I didn't really take advantage of. I've discussed this recently with Nancy, but I didn't really take advantage of my upbringing, and I had a Italian grandmother and mother, and I didn't really take advantage of their skills in the kitchen. I guess as I was younger, that wasn't my main focus and priority, right? So, but now I'm actually getting into cooking quite a bit. And if you say you can't cook, neither could I, right? I just put practice in week by week, and I'm inventing new things. I'm enjoying it. and it becomes part of my daily routine. So there's always one way to start. We certainly can't do a lot of things. However, if we practice, as we practice these habits, we get better at them, and it becomes easier in time. So whatever we're saying here, you can all implement it. It just takes time.
100%. And high protein. Yeah, definitely.
So,
I was just going to say as well, sorry, I was going to say, obviously we've said this time and time again, but, higher protein generally suppress your appetite more. So if you download, go to optimizeyourbody.com, download it for free, that high protein recipe ebook. Tasty recipes, very simple to make, and it's going to generally fill you up a lot more than, obviously eating crap food. And if you're a vegan, you can get the vegan one as well, and that's obviously going to get you eating more plant-based foods. Very simple to do as well. And also I've got, on my YouTube, Martin Silver Fitness, I got heaps of different, a few years ago I made these, very, very basic meal recipes. So just go over to my YouTube, Martin Silver Fitness, and check it out. But just keep it real simple. And like Andrew said, supporting local businesses, I think, is an important one. That could go both ways, because I heard on a recent podcast about, supporting restaurants, because this industry is going to be hit really hard, and it's going to, unfortunately, it's going to shut a lot of businesses down. Some businesses will thrive, the likes of, I don't know, Amazon and stuff like that, and door-to-door businesses. But I think, most of these restaurants now, bear that in mind, even restaurants who don't normally do the door-to-door stuff, most of them are doing that now, so you can support these businesses. But it kind of contradicts what we're saying, because for the most part, really, you want to be preparing your own food and again, developing new habits, and cooking meals and healthy meals is always a great one, right, Drew?
Exactly, mate. That's it.
Yep. So yeah, just that was a third point then on nutrition. Any other little hacks you've got for the audience, and on nutrition and eating right? We covered most of it, didn't we?
Yeah, I think.
But the key thing is eating whole foods. You said that, right? Eating whole foods.
Yeah, they're much harder to overconsume. Again, processed foods are designed for that reason, to overconsume. And if you do have them within your home environment, not hidden away, then they're going to be eaten by the majority. 99.9% of people haven't 100%. Got that will control not to eat them.
And the science points to this. I'm going to bring this study up one more time. I've brought it up about 100 times now. But the one on, it's a crazy study, the cross study as well. So they had people eating the same macros, so they weren't, and the same calories. So they were eating roughly the same amount of protein, fats, and carbs, same calories. One was eating, one group study was having processed foods, purely processed foods. The other study was having whole foods. The people eating the processed foods overate by exactly 508 calories a day. That's an extra 3,500 calories over a week, which works out about a pound of fat. So, I mean, the science points to this, right? And it was a cross study. So they crossed over the groups and done the same thing. So they switched over. The other group was eating processed and so on and so forth. And the same thing happened. So it's not even the individual, right? That's how powerful these highly palatable foods are. So you need to really, we're trying to lift your spirits here, but you just got to be really aware about this if you're serious about staying in shape over this period, right, And?
Yeah, but also for health reasons, right? Like I said earlier, we are in a time where our health is at risk. So we want a strong immune system. So what better time to improve that immune system by eating better, moving better, drinking more water, getting more sleep. These are all pivotal in the role to improve your immune system. If you're concerned about the actual virus itself, then there's more of a reason for you to start bringing in these factors and start bettering yourself and improving.
Absolutely. Yeah, that summarizes that one. And just to go back to the last point, I wanted to elaborate a little. So just 3 points here, right? We've condensed a lot. We'll put a blog out on this as well. We've condensed a lot into these points. So point number 1 is on mental health, right? So taking the opportunity to work on your self-development, personal development. Number 2, we talked about exercise and about really implementing body weight and band exercises and workouts in the house, which will be extremely effective. I can't stress that enough. I've had amazing results with clients just from doing body weight and band workouts, and it's been so transformative for me as well, just doing the resistance band sessions, both for aesthetics and for my energy levels, and the same goes for Andrew. But I just wanted to elaborate on that second point about steps, movement, and just increasing your activity. And how do we navigate around that one, And?
That's going to be a tough one. It really depends if you're allowed out of the house right at the moment. In Italy, they've been implementing measures where you are only allowed out with your dog. In southern Italy, where my family lives, They're only allowed out with their dog for around 10 minutes a day, I think, or 10 minutes twice a day, maybe that. And they can only walk 100 meters back and forth. So we are really limited to the amount of movement you can do. At the moment, we can walk our dogs wherever we want in New York. So I've been just trying to, because I have more time now, trying to take him out for an hour. I've been up to 4 hours recently taking him for a walk. So if they still allow you to go outside, obviously keep distance from other people, but you can walk as many steps as you want. If it comes to the point where you're going to stay inside the apartment, then my advice would be try and get your NEAT up, so non-exercise activity thermogenesis, by doing chores around the house. So there may be some material around the house you need to fix or put up or paint or anything like that, or to keep your house clean, give it a deep clean as well, and that will then increase the amount of movement you do. It doesn't necessarily have to be planned steps, right? It can be other factors taken into consideration. Try and get up and do as many sessions per day as you possibly can. But I don't really know the true extent of what is going to happen to us in terms of lockdown. So for now, we do have the freedom to get those steps up. So a 20-minute walk after dinner helps with digestion. That'll help you get an extra 2,000 steps a day. So you can implement these things. To the true extent, I don't know what we're going to, how we're going to be locked down. So it's difficult to really answer that. But for now, we have the freedom to get outside in the sunshine, which is vitally important during this time and any time. Get your vitamin D levels up as well. Again, go for a walk with family and friends. And it's just going to help you feel better, because everyone's feeling a little bit anxious and stressed during this time, and probably a little bit down. So just to improve your mood, get outside as often as you can.
Definitely. And I wanted to talk, firstly, no wonder your dog's not anxious, taking him out for 4 hours a day. Bloody hell, you're burning the poor bugger out, you.
I'm trying to. I want to keep him quiet. So.
No wonder he's calm now.
No, he's like a lunatic.
No, but I wanted to talk about that because one of the most effective, I've said this recently, right? One of the most effective things that I've implemented myself over the last few months is walking after I've eaten. And just for an example, the other day, it was boiling hot outside. It was like 35 degrees, and I'd been outside with a client, actually, for obvious reasons. And I was just knackered. I thought, I can't go back out there. And I racked up like 11,000 steps in my house. And that wasn't, like Andrew said then, that wasn't allocated steps. I wasn't right, I've got to get up and do 5,000 steps now. I'm pacing up and down. I had some food. Now I tend to eat about 3 times per day, big meals. And I tend to walk after I've eaten. Every time I've eaten now I move, because not only does it really aid digestion and it boosts your energy levels, but also if you get a chance, if you can go outside, you get in the sunlight and the vitamin D. But studies have shown that actually it helps to suppress your appetite as well, which is a really important thing for you to bear in mind. That actually a recent study showed that it reduced, just by walking for say 20 to 30 minutes after you've eaten your food, it reduced your triglyceride levels, which is the fats which tend to build up in the blood. And what it did also is it boosted, just by doing this walk after eating, it boosted your leptin levels. Now, leptin is the hormone which tells your body to stop eating, effectively. So it goes to show you got less chance of overeating as well if you're getting out. So you're going to be burning more calories, boosting your energy, aiding digestion, but also the chances are your appetite's going to be more suppressed. So it's a win-win, really. And you don't, if you can go outside, like Andrew said, in countries like Italy and whatnot, and who knows what's going to happen in these busy cities such as New York. But in your house, I'd done 11,000 steps in my house the other day. But as I was saying, I wasn't allocating that in. All I was doing was, right, I've got a bit of work to do on my phone. I've got to check some emails. So I had my meal, and I was just walking up and down in my house. Looked a bit weird, right, Drew? But I was just checking my emails and deleting some emails because I let them build up, doing some stuff on social media, messaging a few people back. You can still be productive, especially when you're in your house. I know it sounds a bit weird, but you can when I'm out walking, I don't like to be on my phone all the time, looking down on my phone and checking stuff. I like to be present and enjoy the outdoors. But in your house, if you're just walking up and down, you can just do some stuff on your phone. It doesn't mean, we're so used to sitting down now, human beings, that we just do everything sat down. Why not get up on your feet? And again, implementing those habits like walking after you've eaten is something that I know Andrew does as well. It's a game changer, really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised at what the power of movement can do. I think, we're all sucked into the hype that we need to do planned cardio, but however, we don't necessarily need to do planned cardio. We just need to fidget, move, do some housework, and that will help us lose weight, provided we're in a calorie deficit, right?
Definitely. Yeah, and that's where it comes. It all ties into one thing. That's why eating less, if you can eat less processed foods and more whole foods. And I wanted to say as well, like we always tend to say, don't think that we're trying to tell you, oh, I've got to cut all this shit out now. Just simple habits like don't buy loads of shit food to keep in the house because you will eat it. And add in more, taking an opportunity to add more healthy foods to your diet. If you tell yourself that, rather than saying, right, I'm going to try and cut back now through this time, the likelihood is it's going to be very hard to sustain that because you're going to have more time on your hands. You're going to have more, you're going to be bored at times or whatever it is. So try adding more foods, like using the recipe book I talked about on the website and adding and experimenting with some new healthy foods, right, And?
Great point. That's a massive point that I missed out there as well. Again, drink more water during this time.
Definitely,
that's
an important one.
Walk to the tap. There's an extra 10, 20 steps. Walk to the tap, walk back, okay?
Exactly.
Simple enough. Or maybe just give yourself a task of saying, right, I'm going to prepare food just once per day.
Exactly.
Practice cooking once per day. Maybe do it first thing in the morning, breakfast, or early morning is the best time to implement things because when it comes to the evening, often we're like, don't really have the energy to do this. I want to relax now. So you make that the first things you do in the morning. I'm going to prepare one meal, a good solid meal, then start bringing that and implementing that, and things are going to change for you anyway.
Oh, definitely. And the good thing about all the stuff we've mentioned is, this podcast is timeless, really, because they're just lifestyle changes which you can implement, and they will be complete game changers. So never, like Andrew said then, never underestimate the power of movement. Movement is medicine. Everything we talk about is from a holistic standpoint, if you like. Everything, the body is one organism, right? It's not like I'm going to do this to burn more calories and just looking at things, right, I want to get in better shape. There's nothing wrong with that, but just starting to connect the dots. And I guess that's what I was going to say. It all comes down to awareness. So with your movement, it's also a great opportunity for you to start actually tracking how many steps you're doing and realizing, oh, actually, I'm doing X amount of steps. So even if you haven't got a Fitbit or a wrist piece, just keep your phone on you. The health, for example, the iPhone has the health app, with the heart icon built onto the phone on your main screen, and that tracks your steps. Just go on there and set it up. Take you less than a minute. Put your weight in there wherever it is. Keep your phone on you, and you'll start building more awareness. If you don't know now how many steps you do, this is going to be indicative and tell you exactly how many steps you're doing. So then going forward then, when you do go back to work and you go back to the office and you sat in your car more and you sat down more, you'd be like, oh, okay, when I had this time of 2 weeks off, I was implementing these habits and I was moving, I was doing 10, 15,000 steps a day. Now that I'm sat on my ass in my car and in my office and I'm getting distracted and I'm going to meetings and I'm sat down more, now I'm aware I'm only doing 4,000 to 6,000 steps. I need to ramp this up. So...
yeah, and it doesn't have to be a high-tech gizmo, right, or a high-tech watch. No. I think that's the misconception people have. We have to get the best one, the Garmin or whatever it is, that they're the most expensive. Just anything will work as long as you're tracking that data. It doesn't really matter.
Exactly, mate. Look, this is shameless. Look at that, mate. Look how terrible that looks. I don't care. Cost me like $90, right? But it does the trick. I've had it for years. 90 Aussie dollars as well, which is dirt cheap. So, yeah, mate. So just to summarize that, really, personal development, the first point. Mental health. Number 2, we talked about body weight and band workouts and just doing stuff in the house, just doing workouts in the house. And on that point, just go over to my YouTube and check, or just go onto my Instagram and check out the home workout I posted recently. You've got a free workout there for you to implement. If you try and do that twice a day for at least a few weeks, you'll get good results just from doing that. Shameless plug here. Andrew and I designed a home workout program as well, which is now half off. So 50% off that home workout program, which is a 9 to 10 week program. And that will, it's actually a perfect time span because it looks like this is going to go on for at least 3 to 6 months. Not that you're going to be isolated for that time, but this period of, potentially gyms being closed down, who knows what's going to happen. So it's a great opportunity for you to build some muscle, improve your mobility, and improve your strength and everything, really, because the way Andrew and I have designed it is split into phases and is structured for you to continue to make progress. So that's 50% off. So go over to optimizeyourbody.com and check out the home workout plan. Number 3, nutrition, and just wrap that one up for us.
Yeah, just have awareness of what you're eating. Bring in little changes, subtle changes, as Martin said earlier, in terms of Can we drink more water? Can we just add some form of good nutrition to our daily routine, whether that bringing in vegetables with one meal per day, or can we cook one meal per day, maybe preferably in the morning so we don't forget? Having an awareness of how much we're eating. Obviously, our energy expenditure is lower, we're moving less, so we should be then taking into account the amount of food we eat, so we should be eating less with that as well. Focus on whole natural foods for the most part, and because they're not easy to overeat, right? It's much harder to eat a bowl of potatoes than there is a bowl of potato crisps or potato chips, right?
Absolutely. And then finally, number 4, movement.
Yeah, movement. Again, we're not sure exactly what's going to happen in terms of shelter in place, or if we're going to be stuck to our apartments. So for now, we can get outside. Can we move more post-dinner to aid digestion? Can we get a 20-minute, 30-minute walk in there? Do we have pets that we can walk around with to increase our steps and our energy expenditure? Can we get out with family or friends? Can we do frequent workouts throughout the day that will increase our movement? Take into account non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So that is NEAT. That means anything we do outside planned exercise. So try and get things done around the house that you've been kind of skipping over the last 6 months. I know men were pretty bad at that, right? Mm-hmm. Can we do more housework? Can we do more cleaning? This is all going to take effect, and we need to take this into account to increase our movement throughout the day.
Definitely. Can we play more Twister? I spotted we got that board game here. We haven't played it yet. We need to do that now.
No?
Yeah, Twister with the family, right? Simple things like that. Have some fun with it, right? Remember that game?
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, exactly. If you got that in the house, that's a win.
Outside playing a bit of sport, like I've been playing kind of football and rugby and things like that, stuff that I haven't done in years, and I really enjoyed it.
How much fun is it, man? Oh,
with a small group of people, do you know what I mean? 2 or 3 of you.
Yep.
Kick it around, keep your distance, like have some fun. And, it's exercise at the end of the day, and you will feel it. So
that's exactly right. Make the most of that now. Who knows what's going to happen? But at the moment, it's just the perspective, right? And I think it's just the way you look at things, and you can look at it as an opportunity to grow. And I think it's amazing in a sense. It's not amazing all in all, obviously, but looking at the global thing now and how everyone's coming together, it's a way of unifying people one way or another anyway. So I think, looking at the bright side of it, really, and just thinking, right, how can I grow from this? What can I do to really benefit me and the people around me, really? And again, we're not experts on this topic of Corona, but we're just talking from experience and how you can improve your health and wellness, really. But yeah, that's a wrap, mate. That's an hour spot on. I could keep talking, but it's great to have you on, Drew.
Same to you, mate. And, let's make the point that as personal trainers right now, during this moment, we need to uplift people. We need to be there for people as well. We're on the front line when it comes to health. So let's not take advantage of people during this time. Let's just help them. Be there for your clients. If you have elderly clients as well, look out for them. Reach out, get in touch, pick stuff up for them, do whatever you can.
That's a great point, actually. A great point, yeah, because there's a few trainers who listen to this, so awesome point there. And yeah, it's a key thing is to support, is to step up to the plate, right? And our job now is to make people feel good, right? As trainers, I mean, there's only so many times you can tell someone to wash their hands, right, Drew?
Yeah, exactly, mate. That's I've heard enough of that anyway. Trying to be insane.
Exactly. If you could go over to the website and download all the free guides, go over to optimizeyourbody.com/free guides, I believe it is. But if not, if you just go to the main website, optimizeyourbody.com, go to programs and download the free guides. We've got the free fat loss fundamentals guide. We've got a free fasting and a free another guide as well. I forgot what it is. Whatever it is anyway, free ab guide, that's right. Good ending there, mate. Also get the free recipe ebooks as well. Go over there and download the free recipe ebooks. And if you do, if you're interested in online coaching and nutrition and fitness coaching online remotely, then get in touch with Andrew or I. Go and email us at admin at optimizeyourbody.com. That's admin at optimizeyourbody.com. And above all, keep your chin up, right, Hans?
Yes, sir. Be positive. I think we're all going to get through this, right? If we implement the right measures. Things are getting better already in places like China and things like that. They're on top of things. So it will, obviously, if you're in Australia or UK or US or anywhere in the world, the times will get better and it will improve, and we'll be through this sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. Onwards and upwards. Nice one, Drew. Have a good evening, mate.
Thank you, mate. Have a good morning as well. I know I've woken you up early on a Sunday morning, so enjoy your day.
That's all good, man. I'm eating into your Saturday evening here, so have fun, mate. Have
I've nothing planned.
a wild time with your
Otherwise,
dog,
sitting at home, so I'm good.
yeah? Make sure you and Floyd have a ball, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Cheers, guys. See you soon.
Thank you.